Selectors, and welcome to the deck building series where we're building this deck. Um, and this is going to, I think, be the last part of the deck building series. So let's say where we were at last time, right? Is we made a deck and we liked it, but we thought maybe what if we threw blue in this? You know, like what would we do with that, right? And the tendency is either here to throw things out completely or to hold on too much to the ideals of what was there before. And I found a way to navigate that sea, at least for me, to navigate that sea in order to be like free myself to experiment otherwise. The cool thing is this part of the deck building process can actually happen much later too. You might make an initial build of the deck, go to your locals, get stomped on by your opponents, and then come back and you're gonna go, what do I do here? How do I make this deck any good, right? Don't just immediately throw out a deck list just because it didn't work out, right? You can look back at it and be like, what you need to do is you need to look back at it and come up with real criticism points. Not like, well, my opponents had life bursts and I couldn't win against those life bursts. Like, yes, that might be true if you're playing a deck that has Lancer and you need to then think, all right, I got to figure out a way to avoid life bursting out on my Lancer targets. But generally speaking, you just want to avoid bad beats stories. You want to be like, okay, I lost, and the reason I lost was this. Or talk to your friends, too. Like, after you lose against them, be like, this is a new deck build. What were you scared of? Like, what worked against you? What were you like, no, this would never work against me? And what just didn't work out for you? And be realistic about your game plan, too. Like, if you knew what purpose, what deck direction you were building with your deck, you can then sit back here and go, well, did those things not happen in that order? Was there things that stopped me from realistically doing those things? Right? Was it enter? Did I not have enough enter? And if it wasn't enter, it was like I just crumbled to discard, or something. Then you can be realistic about those things that have happened. So this part is where that phase comes in as well. So what I do to free myself from looking at a deck list and saying, well, I don't want to get rid of it because it's here and I worked hard on it. I don't want lost time cause fallacy or whatever it's called. Is I just make a second version of it, right? Like I've got it right here, I've got the original version. Now I can experiment on this other version that I've got, and just shrink it down so you can see. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna work on this, right? Like I've got a second version here. I can always revert it back. Something that I also like to do if I'm doing this in physical cards is I just lay out the deck like normal, but I don't unsleeve them. I just put the cards that I want to replace with on top of the cards that I'm going to replace it with, and think how the deck looks there. That way it's not permanent. I can get rid of it if I want to. So I can already tell you there's a couple cards in here that I think are generally kind of weak. And I'm just gonna strip those back and see what I can do with it, right? Like I think Serenius is pretty mid, and I also think that Brutus, generally speaking, is pretty mid. And as far as Digger goes, I'm gonna strip that back too for a second here. And then I'm gonna look at some other options here that I think are kind of not amazing. Cola is okay. And I can probably go lower on the Bernice, these, whatever I don't know how they're pronounced yet. I can go down to 2, I can go down to 3. I'm going to go down to this for a second, 3 here. And I think the Yukis are not great at a 4 of. I like them as a 2 of or a 3 of. And the Dragon Maid is okay. So let's strip it down there and see where that gets us. We're also going to need to take out White Heaven, because we're going to try to bring white into the mix. Now, there's a couple different ways blue. There's a couple different ways I could have brought blue into the mix. The easiest way is to bring the Madoka in, like we were talking about in set 1, or the first one. Right, and this is basically a 1-for-1 flip. I need to put more blue in here now. And I think the easiest thing I'd like to do, especially if I'm hitting it off of these life bursts, is I want really strong enter ability, and so I want Hakat. Or Sui. You could do Hakat or Sui. Sui helps fill your own trash a little bit. And I think that's maybe worth mentioning. But I think everyone knows that I like Hakat quite a bit. I just think it's so much utility in your level 1 slot. And with the ability to bring back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like cards from my trash to my field, I'm pretty interested in recurring that Hakat if I need to. And that immediately puts 4 into here for the clap, which means that we can now pretty efficiently, I'd like to fit maybe 2 more in. My go-to is always to like put 4 Hakats and 2 Suis in here. And I don't think that's necessarily the wrong move. Because drawing extra cards and discarding extra cards means that you can fill your stuff up to turn Brutus on, to turn Baphomet on, it turns the Tama on. It turns the it needs 10, so it's a 7,000 level 1 on. It turns on quite a bit of things, so it might actually be right to run these instead of Hakats. I'm kind of talking myself into it right now. But I also am trying not to mill myself constantly. And am I milling myself outside of Baphomet? Not really, but 4 Baphomet is already pretty strong, so maybe I want 2 Suis in here. What does that do to our level 1s? Like, that maxes out on blue. But maybe we don't want that. Maybe we want to just take out the Hakats and run, 3 Suis. Because 3 Suis, 4 Baphomet seems pretty strong in terms of our mill ability, you know? So I think we're happy with that. That puts us at 4 plus 3 is 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Did I do that math right? No. 16. 16. So we're pretty good at our level 1s right now. I do want to add random drains. How many I can fit in? That's a question. Might be 2. 2 might be the most that we're fitting in. Is there any other life burst slots I'm willing to go down on? I suppose I could cut an Exia. It doesn't make me happy to cut the Exia. I suppose I could cut a Tama. That's an option, is to cut 1 Exia, 1 Tama. But it feels like the power of this deck is at 4 Exias. Especially with, just Maho wanting to bring back an Exia no matter what on its thing. And the Super Celestia Sabers also bringing back an Exia. I don't think I want to cut down lower than that. So I think we're only going to do 2 random drain. A lot of people will auto try to include 4 random drains into basically any blue discard deck that they want to do, but the discard isn't our main focus here. Maho's mill is our main focus, and the discard is just a side benefit from it. Likewise, I put out some level 2s, so I really could just bring in some Bruno. And maybe not even a full amount, like 3 Bruno, 2 Bruno, something like that. Let's see where this puts us at right now. We have 16 level 1s. How many level 2s do we have? 1, 2. This also needs to be in your center zone for it, though, so these don't play super well together. 3 is fine, though. I'm not so worried. So we got 5 level 2s. And that's... Oh, and then 6 level 2s here. Which would make sense if we had more spells, but we currently do not. Maybe I bring those diggers back in. This puts us at 6 flex spots, right? 2 Animirages, 2 diggers, 2 random drains. And I think that maybe is okay. I mean, another thing you could do if you're... I suppose you could cut an Animirage to go up 1 more random drain, especially if you have the diggers. I'm not opposed to it, so let's try it. I think you're giving up a little bit of life burst potential here, right? because now we are down to basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these like refill your own lane life bursts, which powers down some of the stuff. Like it powers down Sui a little bit, powers down Yuki a bit. But I think generally speaking, it's maybe still a correct move. And we're still, and I like 3 random drain in this deck, especially with like maybe 3 Bruno. And that would put us at, in terms of our level 2s, that would put us at 3, 4, 5. How many are we at now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sure, that's an acceptable range of life bursts. I still like the fact that I'm going to be able to play Exceed 4 and Exceed 3, which is something that I was aiming to do. So I think this is probably pretty good. I suppose if you wanted to cut the Bruno down, how many level 3s do we have right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I normally like to be at 10 with this. Oh, I suppose a whole nother aspect you could do is ZR. Let's look at ZR and decide if we want it. How much blue do we need? We're probably going to play at least 2 random drains per game plus a Madoka Float, which is 3. So we're need 8 to 10 blue cards. And we're already rocking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're in that number. We're in it. We're in it. How much whites do we now have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But we don't have any white costs, right? No, we do. We do. We have we have Akino Bye Bye, but we could get away with 4 with Akino Bye Bye, 4 to 6. So having 8 is perfectly acceptable. And then the black, how much are we at now with that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we're at basically the bare minimum of black that we can get away with. Which I don't hate. I kind of like. I kind of like it. I do. So the question is, do we want to cut a Bruno for a ZR? I don't hate the idea of doing that either. But it requires more blue cost because of that. So I don't think we're doing it. We don't have enough really to do this discard 2 constantly. Okay, so we're not heavily enough of a discard deck that I want to do that. So I think I'm pretty happy with this deck now. And so then the question becomes, right, which one do we like better? And I think the answer is I like this one better. Oh wait, we didn't choose a piece. We absolutely need to choose a piece. So Azure, blue black Gaia was one of the choices I was thinking about. Which is 3 enter, and that's a shit ton. I mean, it's as much as White Heaven is. To basically draw 2 cards and make the opponent discard 2 cards. I mean, you could do it in combination with its once per game, right? So, like, let's say you do that in the combination of the once per game. Your opponent's at 3 cards in hand, 2 and enter. I don't know. I guess this is pretty good. Discard does help play that sort of, like, game. There's also this, right? So we could go down a Bruno in the main deck and get a blog or whatever that's card's called. Guy. right? So this would allow us to just trash opponent's signies. If we put a 1 of in there and cut down Bruno, which we did, where does that put us? 19. 19 plus 2. So we're over 1? How did that happen? How did that happen? I'll cut one in a second. Yeah, so I don't think we need the Azure. I think what we're going to do is instead go with Machina Guardian Dragon as the piece of choice. I don't know why it doesn't show me a picture here. It just doesn't, though. But just so you guys know what it does, it allows you to basically negate out an entire Elrig attack during a turn. I think that's a pretty okay choice here. Especially if they're like, I'm not going to give you the guard back. And then you're like, okay, cool. Machina Guardian Dragon. Alright, so let's strip out this for now. We have a fair amount of mill here that maybe 2 Phalaris is more than what we need. With Dragon Maid and stuff, maybe we don't need to get 2 Phalaris. Maybe we can go down to 1 and put a guy in there. No, wait, I don't want to do that, right? Because that's going to make my colors down to less than what I want them to be. Machina Guardian Dragon also, by the way, costs 0. I mean, it costs 1. Don't get me wrong. 1, 2, 3. Depending on how you do it, you can minimize it with cards in your own hand. So let's see. Let's just review real quick. We've got a lot of spells, but we have 6, and that's sort of 6 flex spots is the most that we possibly can be. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18 level 1s, so we're maxed out on level 1s. Then we have level 2s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, level 2s, 6 level 2s, which is where I want to be at. Like if I do 6 kind of spells-ish, then I'm looking to only have 6 level 2s. And then our level 3 slot is currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So really, our last slot should go to a level 3. So let's put up the 2 Phalaris again. Again, this is basically what you're doing. We're building this whole deck around Super Celestia Saber, and we're always getting back an Exia and either a Anna Mirage or a Phalaris with that. Every time we're doing that. I suppose we could go down to 1 Digger. No, we couldn't go down to 1 Digger because then we'd have to go less random drains. Our blue count is high enough, I think, between these 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is where we're trying to be at if we're paying basically 1.5 blue costs, basically 1 for clap and 1 to 2 for random drains. No, I mean, yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's okay. So we'll do that, and then we just make sure that our black costs are finalized. I need to hit at least 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Glad. 19. I might have miscounted somewhere, but Tama will let us cheat on that cost a little bit, so we're fine, I guess. So I guess this is where we'd want to be at. I suppose if we wanted to lower ourselves on the mill plan, we could probably take out 1 Brutus and go 1 up 1 Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna gonna cut a Brutus, up a Bruno, and then I am going to. What does that allow me to do? What was my brain burst? I was like, I got it. I know what I'm doing now. Up a Bruno, so I can cut a random drain. There we go. We'll lower our blue costs a little bit, and then up an Animirage. That way, we still hit costs in terms of colors. We get a little bit more power from that life burst, which I kind of want. So that way we can pull out Yuki or Sui or something like that. I like this. I like this a lot better than what I had just 2 seconds ago. It puts a little bit more pressure on us to use Bruno for the discard plan, but so what? Who cares? And we got enough things that we can bring Bruno back occasionally too. I didn't want to overload on level 3s because with between the ability getting us back a level 3 as well as a Super Celestia Sabers giving us back basically 2 level 3s, we don't need a ton of level 3s. We just need enough to function with what we're going for. And that is either Animirage, Exia, or Phalaris. Basically, we're going to be playing those every turn. So I like this deck. Now is the hard part of, do you like it better than this one, or do you want to stay with this? There's some strengths and weaknesses to this. This has a little bit more push pressure in terms of damage, because it's got White Heaven, right? And it's got more ways to deal damage, like more mill options here, more ways just to push damage in general, more ways to be a little bit defensive as well. But this has all of those things that I think we have. We lose a little bit of defensive pressure, but not much because we're still recurring Exia every turn, right? And we still have a fair amount of push pressure, but we have less, and we're giving it up for some more discard. And that'll allow us to kind of control their hand just a little bit, maybe strip some guards. And I think it's weaker because I don't think Machina Guardian Dragon is as powerful as the other options are. There's a blue-black piece. Is there a blue-white piece? No, the blue-white piece sucks. It's freeze. So I think that's a little bit of a weakness for it. I suppose you could also swap that to Xenocluster and call it a day. And your build is pretty tight if you do that. I think Machina Guardian Dragon's probably better for this specific build, but it's a toss-up. So the question is, which one do you like better? And I think I like this blue version better. So then, in the end, this finalized build that we're doing for Maho Maho is going to be blue, white, black control, long game control value stuff, with leaning on the blue, white, or the blue, sorry, excuse me, white, black recursion mid-range archetype with a little bit of black blue control splashed in. And I think that's going to give us our best results. So this is what I think is probably the best Maho Maho deck that you can build. I know this is a strange one, but this will be a weird one to kick off our new centers coming into the meta week. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the centers coming in.